Black History.
Read the book and book review for you.
Book review. 3 books.
The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett hooks you from page 1.
The Vanishing Half. It had been reviewed by the Sunday Times and is a bestseller about 2 twins.
Stella passes as white, while Desiree embraces her roots. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, following twin sisters Desiree and Stella as their lives split in dramatically different directions. One embraces her black heritage, the other passes for white, each forging a path filled with longing and self-discovery.
On Ace being black, and the other one passed herself off as white, married a white person and lived in a white neighborhood.
The Vanishing Half is about twin sisters who escaped. Talk about Louisiana town.
In the black state of Louisiana,
Black residents were obsessed with light skin. Bennett says The Vanishing Half is about twin sisters who escaped their small hometown and lived their adult lives on opposite sides of the color line, one black, one white. And she furthers it's about family, identity,
while the other one stayed grounded in her black identity. The book is fictitious. It's a work of fiction and is written by this black diva. Channel 5 did a documentary, White Nanny, Black Child. It's a factual account of the dark side of interracial adoption. No, a lot of the black children have been badly mistreated by their white foster families.
Inside the house, if they weren't very nice, they still had to be your family.
Yes, there's definitely something that draws you to.
No, lots of black children lived in fear and intimidation and had bad, dark memories.
The only memories I really have of that place is living in fear. There was just something missing. It just wasn't nice. I just remember darkness. I remember dark. Just dark the whole time, dark.
A lot of the black children have been badly traumatised.
A lot of us have been traumatised.
Not all the adoptions had been legal. Most had been done on the black market. Tend to be the case with black African families.
Face it.
The second book on the list is entitled Coconut, about a black child adopted by a white British family, growing up in a working middle-class white Britain, interracial Britain, finding a black identity and being viewed directly as a coconut. This black diva is not the author of the book entitled Coconut, but she had been adopted by a white family and had to deal with the subject of racism. The life story is identical to the book features, also from a black African background.
White Nanny, Black Child. Speak to Ore Ogunbayi, who was picked from a newspaper article.
Now, most of the black children become badly white-minded. That's why the book had been entitled Coconut. But her mind frame did change from being white-minded to embracing her own black identity. The last book, entitled In Black and White, a factual account about a black biracial barrister. That's the black barrister, the book author. That's her on screen. With a white birth mother and a black Jamaican father, experienced raw, direct racism in the British judicial system. So there's a bad degree of racism in the British judicial system. Less than 1% of black barristers make it in the Queen's Council, known as the QC, like Kavanaugh QC.
QC, or Queen's Counsel, is the highest level of seniority you can achieve as a barrister. It's also a recognition of excellence.
Black excellence. She experienced a bad degree of racism and wrote a book. A friend had been brutally stabbed to death. Same. Black teenager Stephen Lawrence, a close personal friend, had been stabbed to death and she wanted to seek criminal justice. What happened to Stephen Lawrence happened to her in real life. Black barrister friend had been brutally knifed to death. Like Stephen Lawrence, reason why she trained to be a barrister to make a change in the British judicial system, but she had been faced with a bad degree of racism.
My son's been murdered and none of these officers, the justice system, the politicians, nobody cared.
As her birth mother was white, she didn't view herself as being black or identify her race as black. Not until a judge in a court of law told her directly, no, you are black. But realised that she was black, as before she segregated herself off from black people and was white-minded, but learnt the hard way, as the bad degree of racism she experienced came directly from white people. Hello, you're watching the Cardiac Champagne Network, Black History, and I spurged out and I bought some books. These are gifts for my mother for Mother's Day. but they're Black history books, and these can all be bought from Temu, and they're dead cheap. I got 2 books for £5. That was a steal. And this one was about £2.50, but the Royal Mail do charge a £2 delivery fee. So you order it from the Temu website, but they put a £2 delivery charge because it's sent out directly by the Royal Mail. But that's still good. That's a steal. First up, The Vanishing Half. Now, it's written by a Black diva. That's the diva in question. From the United States. I thought it was fact-based, but it isn't. Books about Black people with bad inferior complexes practice a form of inbred racism and worship light-skinned Black people.
The idea for The Vanishing Half first came to me when I was talking to my mother on the phone, and she mentioned this town that she'd heard about growing up in Louisiana, where everyone intermarried so that their children would get lighter and lighter. And it immediately struck me as the spark for a novel. Twin sisters, they grow up inseparably, but they decide to live their lives on opposite sides of the color line. One is a white woman and one is a Black one.
A work of fiction, but the story I can directly relate to is about Black people who are Black biracial, who pass themselves off as being white. So in the book entitled The Vanishing Half, it's about 2 identical twins which were born in a Black community in, I think, is it segregated America? In the book, the twins' father is brutally lynched by the Ku Klux Klan in a race hate crime, which badly impacts both of his daughters. And one of his daughters, one was lighter skin and one was darker skin. The light skinned one passed herself off as white. Soul diva Mariah Carey is Black biracial. Her mother is white and her father is Venezuelan Black. Richie's daughter being adopted by Lionel Richie and his wife, but as a Black birth parent, but identified her race as being white. She looks white, even though her biological birth parent is Black. Even within my own family, there's different skin tones, shades of Black, different degrees of Blackness. Black dark skin can be badly demonized among Black people. It's bad because it's a form of inbred racial hatred and different shades of Black. But they're good experiencing bad raw racism, like the blunt of it, because America was segregated. And in the book, The Vanishing Half, when they become adults,
what happens when 2 identical twins choose completely different lives?
One stays grounded in the Black community and identify with their race as being Black, but the other one turns her back on the Black race and embraces a white identity. Like Lionel Richie's daughter, the fact that she was adopted by Lionel Richie holds no significance because her biological birth parent is Black. As Black is badly demonized, she objects to the media and the public knowing her racial background. That's her as a baby. You can tell that she was mixed. Lionel Richie has other children which he had fathered who are all Black biracial. That's his adopted daughter, but she does have a Black birth parent. All of them are Black biracial, which identify as white. His son idolizes his white birth mother. The fault lies with Lionel Richie. He's at fault. He's a Black birth parent. He should instill in his children not to demonize Black people. He's Black himself. Stupid as a Black person to instill that in your own children. There's nothing wrong with marrying a white person, because I would definitely marry a white person, even if I have to educate them in the process. Lionel Richie's adopted daughter, she segregated herself from her own race and by badly demonizing Black people, which is bad, as both of her adopted parents had been Black, so she should not have that bad mindset. The fault lies with their Black parents and living in a white predominant area, having white in-laws. That's Nicole Richie with her white husband. They have her daughter. That's the daughter. She looks white. Looks can be deceiving. She's got Black DNA. The mother is half Black. Her husband's twin brother is married to the Hollywood actress known as Cameron Diaz. Kink in the hair, the curl is Black blood. It was evident when she was little. In her childhood photographs, the Black blood had been evident. She had a bronze, light olive skin tone with curly hair. Nicole Richie and her children do not identify with the fact they have Black blood in them. And her children can pass as white when the fact is she's Black biracial. So the singer EARTHA Kitt has a white father, a mother was Black, and EARTHA Kitt has a bad racial identification crisis. She doesn't identify as Black. Has a white father and a Black mother, but her daughter in turn, EARTHA Kitt's biological daughter, who can pass as white. That's EARTHA Kitt's daughter. Oh, she looks white. People have questioned, is Eartha quit a biological mother, but the fact is, Eartha Kitt gave birth to her. It's to do with genes and DNA, because Eartha Kitt's own father had been white. Child is Eartha Kitt's blood granddaughter. A granddaughter as an adult. Both a granddaughter, that's Eartha Kitt's granddaughter, and that's her daughter, can pass as white. They identify their race as white. Eartha Kitt didn't like black people, as she was treated bad because she was light-skinned. Daughter can pass as white. When you look at her, you think that she's white. Well, in this book, entitled The Vanishing Half, one of the twins, Donna, took on a white identity. Now, even if a black person with a dark Nubian skin tone, if you condition yourself like a white person in the mind, the definition of being white-minded, there's nothing wrong with marrying a white person, but it's to do with the onset, blocking your mind off to race and not identifying with the subject of racism. Eartha Kitt did not identify race as being black. No, in her mind, she had been coloured and segregated herself off. That's her grandson. He can pass as white, but his skin looks funny. That's his mother, Eartha Kitt's daughter, and that's her husband. In this family photo, the boy's got an olive forehead. That's black blood, as Eartha Kitt's his grandmother. Look at him there. The black blood is evident in his skin tone, and look at his hair, the curls. That's black blood. The kink in the hair is black blood, same with the olive complexion. That's his grandmother, Eartha Kitt. When he was younger, he looked white. Segregating yourself from other black people or turning your back on the black race and embracing a white identity. No, Eartha Kitt had done that. It was bad of her, as she went to South Africa under the apartheid regime. Even the black barrister had to badly reset her mind frame when she was told directly by white barristers, no, she's black. Even Lionel Richie had been badly white-minded and conditioned his black biracial children to reject their black heritage and take on a white identity. No, it's about white acceptance. Lionel Richie is a bad coconut and is a black person with a bad inferior complex. So this is what this book identifies with. Now, that rings close to home because even people in my own immediate family have done that. And even the black biracial children, adults in my family don't identify race as being black, and they block the mind off to race and employ this bad, ignorant mindset of blocking the mind off to race and not identifying with racism. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. Same as Meghan Markle was directly forced to confront the subject of race, this book identifies with the same subject. Now, I thought it was factual, but it isn't. It's a work of fiction. But these things happen in real life. No, the bad degree of racism within the royal family. The bad degree of racism within the royal household with Meghan Markle. No, Meghan had been forced to directly confront the subject of race. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, cannot pass as white. Meghan is black, has a bad inferior complex, and she badly demonises black people. No, that's Meghan's black mother. No, Meghan badly demonises black people and doesn't identify herself as a black woman. No, she's stupid. It's a bad insult to her birth mother who is black. Meghan is a black female, a black woman. Does not identify her race as black. She's not a white woman and cannot pass white. No, she's stupid. Strongly objects to being viewed as black, but she has problems. In South Africa, at the end of the apartheid, people who were black and mixed race had a bad racial identification crisis. They did not identify their race as black. A lot of people like Meghan, black people like Meghan, who are mixed blood, have a problem with racial identification. They don't identify their race as being black. It stems within the mind, and this book identifies with some bad issues or the bad mindset of people who are black biracial, who segregate themselves from their own race or condition themselves like a white person.
My mother was mixed race. I am mixed race. My father was pretty much as white as they come. He was German and Irish. And this is the way I came out. And I don't know what to say.
Talking about identity after a lifetime of people questioning whether or not she's a biological child of the Eartha Kitt.
Eartha Kitt's daughter had a really bad, condescending, direct racist attitude towards black people. She had made an exception for her own mother, Eartha Kitt, had taken her to South Africa underneath the apartheid regime. There had been a bad incident in South Africa when they were ordered to leave a theme park and the rides had been shut down. White South Africans had not recognized recognised EARTHA kids. EARTHA's daughter was 12 or 13 at the time and objected to her mother being treated bad. Insisted that her mother had been famous, but her daughter had bad attitude towards black people. Daughter had not cared for the bad treatment of black South Africans, had made an exception for her own mother. This is the controversial subject this book identifies with. Now, all the books featured can be bought at Temu. Definitely buy these books from Temu. If you buy it from Amazon, it could be about £10. Temu, I think it was about £3-ish, or it could be $2.50. It was £1 dearer. These two books from the same seller on Temu, because Temu is a marketplace like Amazon and eBay. I think one in front was £3.50, and I think the one behind was £2.50. So just over £5 for the two books from the same one seller. Just over £5 for the two books. Book entitled In Black and White, about a black British female barrister. That's The Black Barrister. This was from a separate seller. It was £2.50, I think. Oh, it was actually £3.50. My mistake. Cheap, and they're definitely worth reading if you're interested in black history. Now, this book, the word coconut, even I've been accused of being a coconut, but it's not that. It's to do with what's inside the mind. Now,
in a shocking practice known as farming, 70,000 West African children were placed in unofficial foster care arrangements with white British families between the 1950s and the 1990s.
The book entitled Coconut is a factual account about a black girl who had been adopted by a white family. This book is thought-provoking. This one is fact-based. It's a factual account about a black child who was an orphan. Now, in the UK and Britain, black children, all black children in the 50s and 60s, they wasn't given to black families, they were gifted to white families. Like in this case, all 3 black children was given to a white family.
I had an older brother.
That's a brother. So both her and her brother had been fostered out to a white couple named Mr. and Mrs. Smith, acted as their parents while their black mother and father could work and study. So it's a factual account. The white woman was her stepmother. Her story is identical to the book entitled Coconut. So when it comes to racial identity, that can be a bad major problem, because the black child would suffer raw, direct racism done blatantly. Because Britain in the 50s and 60s, even though the country was desegregated, was no different than Alabama in the Deep South. So even I myself experienced a bad degree of racism growing up in a multiracial Britain. And the areas I grew up in was like predominantly solid white. So there are parts of the book that I can definitely relate to. But I grew up in a black family. But she grew up with a white mother and a white father, and they can be major problems. Stereotypes are evident in the way how white people think, and even white couples which adopt black children need to be educated on the subject of race. So this book pushes that boundary. No, Shirley Bassey is a bad coconut. She was born to a black Nigerian immigrant and a white woman from Yorkshire. Fact is, she suffered a bad degree of racism growing up in Cardiff, but that didn't stop or prevent Shirley Bassey from going to South Africa under the apartheid regime. Shirley Bassey had an honourable white status and had a bad condescending attitude towards the blacks in South Africa under the regime. Now, it's entitled Coconut. So the definition of the word coconut is a black person who may be black on the outside but white on the inside, to do with the mind. The rock goddess named Tina Turner is badly white-minded. She went to South Africa under the apartheid regime and had a bad attitude and sentiment towards black South Africans suffering the apartheid. So she had an honourable white status in South Africa, did not care about the blacks facing the hard regime. Some people use the word coconut to talk about aspects of behaviour. No, it's a bad, ignorant, direct view to think that because you as a black person don't swear or use bad language or behaviour, black people are supposed to have a bad character. So because your behaviour challenges the stereotype and don't act or conform in a certain way. The definition of the word coconut is a black person who is white-minded. Actions speak louder than words. I could do things inclined for white people or inclined for white, because I know black people like that, even within my own family, or for white people. In other words, they're white inclined. So that's the definition of the word coconut. Now, you can understand that as she grew up with a solid white family, a white mother and a white father, growing up from the age of 2 up into adulthood, that she would be white-minded. I can accept that, but she was forced to confront the subject of race directly because of white people bad racist, bad direct prejudicial attitudes. Not our own mother and father because they adopted the black child, but people outside on the street. A lot of ignorant remarks, bad stereotypes which are evident in the way how white people think. Raw stereotypes are portrayed in this book. So because of that, she grew up being very white-minded. Very coconut, the definition of the word coconut. But because she was forced to directly confront racism, her mind shifted, something altered in her mind frame. So she's the one that wanted the book to be entitled Coconut because of what her mind shifted. Later on in life, she took on the black identity because she knew that she was not white. If you're a black person, you condition yourself no different than a white person. It will be your own bad downfall because stereotypes are evident in the way how people think, and most stereotypes can act as a lead barrier and block a person's judgment. So even if you as a black person employ this bad, ignorant mindset of blocking your mind off to race, and like the word stereotype offends you, it doesn't change about that will block a white person's judgment. Because a lot of the time you have to educate people on negative depictions of black people or educate a white person on stereotypes. Many a times white people have insulted me directly, even white church members, by passing bigoted, ignorant remarks. Like, they have a blatant disregard, they don't think. You, the black person, are offended by that. It can be do anything like to do with provident stereotypes. Working no different than the lead barrier. It doesn't make no difference if we don't act or behave a certain way. But this book really pushes the boundaries. So I definitely would read this book. She's not like me. She's from a black African family, but they gave her up for adoption. My background is black British, but my parent family are from the West Indies. So, but even then I can relate to the book.
It was ultimately your responsibility. They don't have a man's death on their conscience.
Attribution, an QC.
The last on the list, a book entitled In Black and White. It's about a black biracial barrister, a black diva with a black Jamaican father and a white British mother. A lot of black biracial people have this bad mindset. Even though they're black, they don't identify their race as being black. No, Meghan strongly objected to being viewed black, like in South Africa under the apartheid.
The government backed injustice before it did.
At the end of the apartheid in South Africa, F.W. de Klerk, when the act of segregation ended, pushed the black biracial people, bad rubbish slums of Soweto, into the bad rubbish slums of Soweto to be among the blacks. They're not white, but inside the mind, it's to do with the skin tone. No, it's to do with the shade. Light-skinned black people detest and despise black skin. It's like, look at the shade of my cardigan and now compare that skin tone of my face. That's how people who are black biracial mind is set. Now to a white person, no, they look stupid because from a white person's direct view, they're black. But inside the mind of someone who is black biracial, because they have a lighter skin tone, like my cardigan compared to my skin, that's how they see it. So they segregate themselves off. It's all in the mind. That what happened to black people. The fall and end of the apartheid, they had bad racial identification crisis. The fall of the apartheid in South Africa, bad racial identification crisis with black people who had a lighter skin tone, like this black singer who is black biracial, who they themselves do not identify the race as being black and view themselves as being coloured and not black. Mixed blood. They don't cannot identify the race as being black. Well, this happened to this black barrister. The black barrister. Her birth mother was white. Even then, it was bad of her parents as an interracial couple not to educate her on race or prepare her for racism. No, Meghan Markle's black mother had done that because even Meghan Markle's mother had not prepared Meghan for racism or educated her on race. Meghan Markle's mother said it was bad of her as a black birth parent not to educate her daughter on race or to prepare her for racism, which is bad because my own mother and father had been no different than Stephen Lawrence's parents and identified with racism. Racism affects, if you're black biracial, you will still experience a bad degree of racism. It comes directly from white people. The prejudice you experience and encounter comes directly from white people, and you're not white. So it's stupid in your mind to segregate yourself from the black race and take on a white identity, but they do that. Most of them demonize black. Well, she was no different, but she was forced to directly confront the subject of race when she went into the law courts as a black barrister. She was mistaken for being a criminal, like a hardcore criminal. Not to mention, no, she had been stopped by the police for no other reason other than the fact that she had been black. Even when she turned up at the magistrate court, the judge and white barristers stuck her for being the hardcore criminal because she was black. That happens to all black barristers or black people who work in the law courts. They always get mistaken for being the bad criminal. That's to do with stereotyping. How this image that white men, all barristers are white. They're white men with wigs on. Like the TV drama entitled Kavanaugh QC. That's the concept they have of a barrister. Though if you have a black face,
I'm the next person to address the jury. I introduce myself and explain that I appear on behalf of the prosecution in this case.
And you enter the law courts. It's a shock to the system. So most people badly criminalised, so they badly insult the barrister and think that they're the criminal, they're the offender. But that's what happened to this black barrister. 3 times she had been mistaken for being a criminal. So that's why she wrote the book. She had one of her uncles. No, her uncle had been a black Rastafarian, a black dreadlock man. He had been living with a white woman, both of which had been detained by police, badly brutalised and stripped shirts naked. Police thought they had drugs in their possession, cannabis, weed or ganja. The fact that he had been with a white woman made no difference. He had been dragged and brutalised by the police and thrown into a jail cell. No, they had been innocent. No drugs had been found. He was disabled from the waist down, paralysed from the waist down, but that didn't stop the police from beating him badly and severely, or the fact that he had been with a white woman didn't stop or prevent the police from stripping them naked and detaining them on suspicion of drugs. Was with a white woman. The fact that you're married to a white person, you're not exempt from racism. Tell that to the police. So all that is detailed in the book. It's definitely worth reading. It's an eye-opener. But she came to a consciously, when she was forced to directly confront the subject of race and racism, that's the time she realised she was black, because the white barristers and the judge told her directly that she was black. But inside her head, she viewed herself as being coloured, like in South Africa. Nelson Mandela, with Mandela, that racial segregation. But she was told by white people that she's black. A shock to her system, but that's to do with the mind frame. So it's a true life story. Knife crime is in there. So a friend had been stabbed to death, like black teenager Stephen Lawrence.
Stephen Lawrence, a teenager at the time.
There's a bad stereotype. A lot of white youth or white people carry offensive weapons.
40 minutes. There's a knife crime across England and Wales. This week, we investigate the knives on our streets.
Who knows what?
In fact, lots of white youths carry knives and commit violent offences. So you, the black person, can be the victim of the knife crime like this man on screen. It's a bad stereotype to label knife crime on the black community. A friend was a victim of knife crime, and that's what elevated her to become a barrister. Raw racism is depicted in the book. So for her, when she was directly forced to confront the subject, that's the time she realised it. But it's definitely worth reading. I'll leave you with a video from EARTHA Kids. She did experience a bad degree of racism in South Africa with an under honourable white status. In the park, they shut down the rides and asked her to leave, forced her out, not recognising who she had been. It had been stupid of EARTHA Kid to go to South Africa underneath the bad apartheid regime. She had a white status in South Africa, selling out her own black people in order to get white acceptance. No, all white people in South Africa recognised EARTHA Kid, and she was treated bad by them, taste of her own bad medicine. So she's a black person with a bad inferior complex. She identifies her race not as being black but as coloured, the same in South Africa underneath the apartheid law. Oh, those apartheid laws have now been abolished. F.W. de Klerk forced light-skinned black people in among the blacks who de Klerk know they are black. So it had been de Klerk that put an end to that stupid division among blacks when the apartheid had ended. W. de Klerk done that in order to preserve and save the white race from extinction. In the United States, EARTHA Kid is black. The Constitution states if you got 1 ounce or 1 drop of black blood, which means both the granddaughter and daughter will be viewed as black. Under the United States law, the old Constitution has not been abolished. That law is still in force. Don't like EARTHA Kid. No, she's a black person with a bad mindset, mind frame. She's a bad coconut, but enjoy the single. I'll see you in the next edition of the Cardiac Champagne Network.